What's the deal, my people? You know it is Don Tony Teflon. I'm back at you. Another one, and the Constellation finale has finally dropped. And did you like it? Did you think they answered enough questions? Well, I'm going to go through it in this video, not by a recap, but I'm going to go by character and tell you what I thought about this episode and things that we've seen earlier in the season. So let's do this. We're going to start this one off talking about the main character in this series, and that is Joe. So let's start at the end and then work our way back. So at the end, we finally see the other version of Joe. If you want to say that this is Joe 2, let's just say this is Joe 2. And Joe 2 is on the space station and she's floating, eye blown out of her head, and she comes back to life. Now, what does this mean for season 2? I'm going to tell you, but before we do that, let's go into Joe 1 storyline for this season. So we've seen her taken to a place to rehabilitate herself with a whole bunch of nuns there. To me, the treatment they were giving her, I don't know if it truly works. I mean, the shock therapy, they want to give her more of these lithium pills, but they can't because they find out that she's pregnant. And what they're really trying to do here is to get her to accept. Because I do believe we get confirmation that Irene, Ivanka, whatever you want to call her, knows what's going on, right? She knows that Joe understands the truth, and she knows that Joe is speaking the truth. But what she's trying to tell her is there's no way to get back to your time. Your body is dead in space. That's what she's thinking. My body's dead in space, just like her body is dead in space. So you might as well accept what you have here. And what you have here is a husband and a daughter who need you. That goes a little bit into Alice, and we'll talk about Alice when we get to the Alice section, but that's also what her friend who visits her and gives her the key to the guy's room, we'll talk about him in another segment, tries to tell her also that it's going to get worse before it gets better. Until you accept things, you need to accept things to get out of here, to get out of this place. You have to just play along, play the game. And that's why you see her, she's like, oh, listen, play the piano. Look, basically, you couldn't play the piano before. Look, now all of a sudden you could play the piano. This is going to be a wonderful life for you. Just accept this wonderful life and stop questioning everything. And eventually Joe does come around to do that, and that's how she gets out of this situation. So now let's go into the next character, which is Alice. Alice too, the Alice that we deal with the most in this episode, knows that her mother is in space dead. And it's when she speaks to a friend, and a friend convinces her and says, listen, I'd rather have half a father, right? I'd rather have half a father than no father at all. And this makes her realize that a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, meaning that she may not have her actual mother, but she does have a mother. And she can just have Joe and use Joe as she would her regular mother, because obviously it is her mother, but it isn't her mother, right? It's a weird situation, but that's what's going on. But she comes to grips with that, and that's what she begins to want. So when the other Alice tries to contact her to talk to her mother, she doesn't want to talk to her because she basically wants to steal her mother and make her her mother now. That sounds crazy the way I said it, I know, but that's what's actually going on here. And she says this to her. Alice 1 really says this to Alice 2 in the other episode when she says, can I have her back? Meaning, can I have my mother back? And the other Alice doesn't say anything. Alice 1 is coming to grips with her mother's not coming home, and she talks to her father about it, and the father looks at it as, oh, my daughter is grieving, and she's grieving well, she's doing good in this, because she realizes that her mother is somewhere else, and she doesn't believe that she's going to get home. They'll talk about the body in space in a little bit at the end of this video, and I'll tell you all my predictions for season 2, which they better re-up a season 2, and I think they will re-up a season 2. So this Alice then, she talks to her father, and her father wants this woman Joe back, because this is the Joe that he remembers is the one who cheated on him and was going to leave him, but now he's fell back in love with her by the way she's acting, and he kind of comes around, like knows that this isn't his Joe, because she says to him, am I acting like you're Joe? And he says no. So he kind of believes, but I still don't think he believes all the way. If you watch my channel, then you know that from the first episode, I told you that this lady was the cosmonaut who ran into the space station, and we get that confirmation here when she tells her that her friends call her Valia, whatever they say, that's her nickname and everything else. So we knew that already, but we have solid confirmation. So now let's go into the next character, and we'll do two at once, and that is Bud and Henry. Now, Bud is back in the universe he's supposed to be in, right? He got shifted out. Really, the raw deal was done to Bud. He got shifted out and his life became shitty because of the whole shift. So now he's finally back in the universe he's supposed to be in, and he destroys this Cal device. Why? Because the Cal device must be the thing that is transferring people around in conscious form. So he does not want to go back. He wants to stay in this universe. Why wouldn't he? Look at the life he's living. He's praised. He has fine food. He's just loving everything about it. Why would he want to go back to that shitty ass life that he had that truly wasn't his life? And when you switch that over to Henry is now dealing with the troubles that Bud created. He tries to talk his way out of it when he's dealing with the FBI. He tries to tell them, I'll take a lie detector test, which he does pass, but the DNA, which he thought would come up wrong, doesn't come up wrong. And he's forced to sit here, and he's going to have to face a murder charge and an attempted murder charge because of his actions. Bud feels like he's getting even with him, and I don't know if Bud actually knew that that shift was going to happen right then when he shot Paul, but I think that it just turned out to happen, and he's happy that it happened that way. And I really can't hate on Bud, because in the end, Bud is the true victim when dealing with this swap. So let me go into some predictions, theories, some season 2 stuff. I think we will get a season 2 because looking at it as a series on Apple TV's charts, it's never dipped below number 6. It did peak at number 1, but hovered around 4 the whole time it was on. I think that's good enough for them to renew it. So we know that Paul is alive. How is that going to play out? We got to start speaking about that. I know people thought that he'd be dead, but the most important thing is that we see Joe when she's given the key. She goes up to the screaming man in the room, and there's 2 people in that room. Now this could be a situation where 2 particles exist at the same time in the same place, and these are the same people. But when she talks to Irene, she says to her that there's only 1 person in that room. So although there are 2 people in that room, or does Joe see both of them? She has the ability to see both planes at one now all of a sudden. We also seen that when the light was flashed into the eye that got smashed into the thing, it doesn't dilate at all. So something's going on with her eye. Now dealing with the other Joe who's floating in space and comes back to life, we gotta assume that at some point she's going to make her way back to Earth and to Joe 1's daughter. Now her daughter should be Joe 2, but she's going to go back to Alice 1. Alice 1 is the one accepting the fact that her mother's not going to come back. Now her mother's going to have no eye in that socket, right? And I don't know if they're going to keep it that way or have a patch on her eye, or they're going to do something to make her look better, put a glass eye in there. I don't think they're going to have her floating around with no eye the whole season. But she's going to come back to this daughter who speaks a different language that she doesn't speak, without the ability to play the piano, but what she will get is a husband who still loves her, because when she talks about the dude she's having an affair with, he's not going to have no interest in her because that affair supposedly never happened here. And I think that she might fall in love with her family over here and want to stay here. The other Joe, who I think that, I like Alice 2 better, because Alice 2, she curses and she's a little bit more gritty, a little bit more grimy. She might like that about her, or she might not like that. I would like that about her, but she may like her sweet little daughter better. You know what I mean? So I think we're going to see that dynamic, and eventually you're going to have the 2 Joes confront each other, just like the Buds have confronted each other. I mean, Bud and Henry confronted each other. And I think that Joe 1 is going to want her family back, and Joe 2 is going to be like, nah, I'm good where I'm at. You stay where you at. I'm good where I'm at. Let's just keep it going like that. And that will be what the conflict is in season 2. But you tell me what you think in the comment section. And yes, we know that the time was different when they looked at the ultra scan, and there's something going on with the times, but since I can't really pinpoint it, I'm not going to go into it right now because I really can't give you a solid answer on that. But we have a different times going on here on all these things. We know that. But if you have something to say about it, put in the comment section. All right, I'll be doing a live stream Thursday night, and you can call in and give your opinion on this episode. So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so you can join me on the live stream. And if you like the way I do this, please thumbs up this, spread this across the realm, and of course, subscribe. And until next time, you know who it is. Peace and stay sexy.